Alright, hello and welcome to today's video, which is about Rimworld, the very carefully named game about colonial forces that have moved on to new planets, etc. And it's all about building bases and trying to survive, really. So, the first thing you can do is go on to a new scenario. I'm going to be starting a new scenario today. I have played it before, but I figured we'd start a new one today to show you guys what we're doing. So you get a choice of 3 scenarios to begin with, and I'm sure there are additional ones in the Steam Workshop there, but I haven't really looked into those very much myself. Crash landed, you have 3 people, you get quite a bit of stuff to start with, and then you've got the rich explorer, you get 1 person, he has more stuff, but it's only 1 person, and then finally the lost tribe, 5 people, but the least stuff. So we're going to go with crash landed, because I think that's your sort of basic scenario. If you want to, you can go into scenario editor, edit mode, and add extra rules, I suppose, to the game, extra starting stuff, extra whatever you want, really. Anything you find on here, for instance, you can adapt and change, but we're going to just go with the basics for today. Now, you get 3 different game modes. You've got the storyteller, Cassandra Classic. She's called the Classic because she's the person that is most like most games, sort of increasing difficulty, which is basically like every other survival game. You've got Phoebe, she's more on the sort of give you massive amounts of time between events, but events can hit pretty hard. And then you've got Crazy Random Man, and he just kind of sends events in any order, good or bad. You might get 10 days of loveliness or 10 days of evil bastards trying to kill you. So it's really your choice, and then to further that you have a choice of difficulty down here, which I'm sure you can gauge from free play to extreme. Extreme is going to be ridiculously hard. So yeah, it's your choice really. Although they're called storytellers, they don't actually tell a story, they don't talk, anything like that. These are just the game modes. They're shown as storytellers for some reason or another. We'll stick to the classic so that we get a sort of increasing difficulty level. She does get boring after a while, if I'm honest, this one, because once you've played the game 2 or 3 times, you kind of know what's coming. But there we go. We'll go for her today. I like to play on base builder because it's just sort of like get a bit more time to build, and less sort of crushing damages. But when I play normally, I tend to do Phoebe with Raph on, and that gives you nice breaks between the attacks. But we'll stick to base builders now. Right, this is the size of the world. It doesn't actually really matter how big you make it, but I always go for the largest. And then you've got different seeds, which are basically conditions that the world will go by. I don't know what the seeds mean. I just sort of randomize it until I get one I haven't had. Press generate the world for you. There's the world. So you can see lovely icy areas, you've got deserts, you've got rainforests and just normal forests, and then sort of like cool areas, etc. I try and stick to normal temperatures for now. Let's pretend this is our first game, we don't know what we're doing. So you want to be looking for average temperature, and you want to find a block that has it between sort of 10 and 20 like that. So your temperature in winter is pretty cold, but in summer it's kind of the temperature that you'd want it to be generally. Then you've got a choice of terrains. So flat, you're not going to have many minerals about, all the way up to mountainous, where there's quite a lot of minerals. You have lots of varying different things like gold, silver, steel, etc. So really, if you want a nice easy game to begin with, those are the sort of temperatures you want, from 12 to 24. With a mountainous region. Okay, if you want to challenge yourself, you go to the icy regions. I've not even tried it yet, if I'm honest, but they go all the way down to minus 30 degrees, minus 58 degrees. They're like Eskimos. Growth period never, so you won't be able to grow crops in that area. So if you fancy a real challenge, go for that. But first tie, 12 to 24 is pretty nice. Oh, so that's not mountainous, that's large hills. Let's try a different one. You might have to look for a bit. There you go, 12 to 24. You tend to find that on the borders of rainforest and forest is where you find the sort of temperatures that easiest, I suppose. This mode thing here just changes what you can see. So if I change the temperature, it's going to just show me the temperature. So that might help as well if you are really looking for an area you want that sort of quite less bold orange. Oh, and I've just gone for a random site, which I didn't mean to do. So let's just try and find that again. I have 13 and 25 is fine as well, except I didn't look. Is it mountainous? Small hills? No, it's not mountainous. Let's go again. That'll do. Right. Next thing, you've got creating your characters. Now, I selected one that only has 3 characters, so at the moment I've got 3 characters, one of which is a sex slave. Excellent. Now, these are all the different stats people are going to have. You have what they're incapable of. That one's important. Their traits, equally as important, really. In fact, all of this is going to make up whether or not you've got an easy time or not. You could just say to yourself, oh, I'm going to press this button 10 times and whoever I land on, I have. Or you might keep pressing randomize until you're happy with who you have. Now, one thing I've noticed on this game is that people don't tend to breed, so I wouldn't worry about finding 2 key people or anything like that, or 2 people that you think, oh, they'll make a nice couple. It doesn't work like that. This person's actually quite good, but I'm not going to have a, let's have a look. This person, what you really ideally want to go for is somebody who can shoot, so there's your shooting skill there, and somebody that can construct, and somebody that can grow and mine, and then you're sort of covering your bases. Animals are quite important, but I find that they're more useful late game, because starting an animal farm straight away it's going to be difficult to feed them, depending on your playstyle really. This person can't do caring or social, so if you look on here you can see these dashes, it means he's incapable of doing them. So that's what that is kind of telling you. If we look at this person, incapable of dumb labour, it looks like she can do everything, but that's not true. She can't carry things, she can't do things that require no skill whatsoever. So that's why it says incapable of dumb labour. If it says incapable of skilled labour, you won't be able to do things like crafting or construction, things like that. Then on the other bit over here, health. It tells you health conditions that they start with. So this person's got a scar on their torso, so their torso's got 3 less maximum health. Artery blockage, which affects blood pumping, so maybe later on in the life she'll have a major artery blockage and then she won't be able to move as fast, or she won't be able to keep conscious, or things like that. So it's quite important that you look at the health bar as well. This person can't do hauling. That's quite an important task, moving things around, so maybe not a good person. However, she's brilliant at medicine. Brilliant, so I ended up going for this dude here. He's pretty good at crafting, becomes quite important late game crafting. Early on, you're really looking for construction, which is very useful, and then mining is very useful as well. I mean, I could go through all of these, it'd take me ages, but and I could talk all day about them, but I'm not going to. So you'll only get good at knowing these by doing them yourself. Now, one thing I do always do is give them a middle name, because that's what comes up in front of them. You can edit them mid-game if you want to, but that person's my crafter, so I'm going to call him crafter. That person's good with guns, so call him shooter. You will really want at least one of your person to be a good shooter, because you need somebody to defend your base from attacks, whether that be from enemies or animals or whatever. So make sure one of them is a good shooter. And I would recommend, I could recommend something from every section. So like I said, that's it. The health, cryptosleep, sickness isn't really a big deal. That goes away. That person's got a bite scar, so a little bit less maximum health, not the end of the world. That person's got an old gunshot, same thing, not the end of the world. Look at some of the traits. Some of them sound awful until you actually read them. So psychically deaf, for instance, and neurotic, they both sound awful, but if you read them, they're actually pretty good. Pessimist, that's the really terrible one really, but he's a good shooter, so I decided to keep him. Green thumb's pretty good, and hard work is brilliant as well. So yeah, when you're ready, when you've chosen everybody, start button, it will generate the map, and it will track you in. Now I've chosen one where we arrive in pods, so straight away you'll see 3 pods come down. It'll tell you a little storyline as well, but frankly I'm not really that bothered about that. There's our pods. Each pod has somebody in it. One of them should throw up quite quickly because he's got sickness, and I think it was him, but I can't remember him. First thing you might want to do is hit the pause button in the bottom right. It's just going to just give you a bit of time. You'll notice you can see various things that have come down with you. Those are your starting items. They've also got X's on them at the moment. It means nobody can use them. So these are your packaged survival meals. Yours might look different if you chose something different. We have 30 of them. If you double click it, choose all of them. I'm going to click this button here. It means that they're allowed to use it. So when these people get hungry, they're going to start eating that food. If we don't click that button, they'll just go hungry and starve and die, which is, of course, not that useful for us. Now I'm going to scroll out, and you'll see the size of the map. This is a relatively small one. I actually didn't remember to change it, but... or is it? Let's have a look. Oh, it's okay size, but you can actually make these bigger. But, I don't know, it's not that necessary. Anyway. You might be wondering, how am I going to build things? It's quite important. I can have nowhere to sleep. You're going to need to order them to do things. So, to begin with, let's have a look at what they can actually do. Straight away, the game detects what everybody's good at and gives them the job that they're good at. So you can see by clicking on work all the different jobs and tasks that they're allowed to do. Now at the start, I don't think it's that necessary for just one person to be constructing, because you want to build really quickly. So let's get everybody constructing, yeah? Same thing with plant cutting. We're going to be cutting down quite a lot of this forest here so I can fit in some buildings. So let's get everybody on plant cutting. We can change this later. Alternatively, you can do manual priorities. And you see how these have all got 3s on. That means they've all got the same priority. We change them to 2s or 1s. They are high priority. So that person will rather do art than anything else. And then the priority listing works from here to here. Otherwise, you can see where it says high priority. So even if they're all 3s, if there's a fire, they'll firefight first. Or if they're ill, they'll go and be a patient. Or if someone needs a doctor, they'll be a doctor. Okay? You're going to need more than one doctor, because if my person here called Miner gets ill, there's nobody to look after them. So let's see, that person's got 3. And the other person's got 1, so I'm going to call this person the other doctor. Again, same skill level. Okay? Okay, so begin with, let's work out where we want to build. I want to build where there's lots of space. People like space. If you look at your characters and then go into their needs, you'll see the word space. If they don't have a lot of space, they kind of get a bit pissed off and annoyed, and all these mood bars you see here will drop to the bottom. And there's 3 thresholds. You can see the percentages that they appear at. If somebody breaks mentally, they do weird things and you can't control them for a little while, and sometimes they go berserk and sort of attack other people. Right, I'm pressing the clear plants button. You can, if you so wish, just build, and the construction people will remove things. In fact, I put them all in construction, so let's begin with that. Structures. You'll see a lot of the time that structures default to being made of steel, but we have, let's have a look, 450 steel. There'll be some scattered as well, and personally I don't want to waste any of it on a wall, so I'm going to right click that, and I can choose to make it out of wood. Okay, now if you look down here, there's also dropped some wood. I'm going to scroll right the way out and then double click on wood, and then that way I've got all of it. I've ticked it so that they're allowed to use it, and then I'm going to start building. Now it depends on how you like to play, how you're going to do this, but I prefer to go into floors and do the floor first, and then that way you can see how big a room's going to be, and you don't have to sort of predict the insides of a squared area, which is sometimes difficult. Now people tend to be happy with their space when it's 5 times 5, and then you have a bed in there, and that's sort of like mediocre level. 6 by 6, they're a little bit happier. Obviously if you give someone a room that size, then they're going to be very happy, but you're also going to use a lot of wood, and it's going to take ages to do. So I tend to default to 6 by 6. So I'd do a 6 by 6 room, followed by a wall to separate them. People also like their own rooms, and they get a mood debuff if they're sharing a room with somebody, because they're moody little bastards. You go to structure, and you want to put wooden walls all the way around the outside, and then through the middle. Now, Oh, Mr. Admiral, you're missing doors, so you have to do the same thing here. Now, it defaults to a steel door. You can see at the top here what it's made out of. 25 steel. No, we don't want that, we want wood. So we click wood. Now, it doesn't actually matter where you put the doors. You might be one of those people that has a very, you know, they have their ways of doing things, so you might want to do that and do the next thing like that as well, etc. But there we go. As long as you can get in the room, doesn't actually matter where the door is really. And that's that really. They're gonna start doing that when I press play. Now, these play buttons, you can see there's 3 speeds. They're defaulted to hotkeys 1, 2, and 3, so I'm going to be using those when I play. Now, we also drop in with a pet. I hate dropping in with pets, and I usually I usually delete them from the scenario, because if you kill somebody's pet, they have a mood debuff for ages. But we'll leave the pet for now, and he can just sort of run around. Luckily, we got a Labrador, and they can be trained to do lots of different things, which is useful. But if you get a little terrier or something, they're pretty much bloody useless. They'll try and fight for you and stuff, but then they get shot. Yeah, bit of a strange one with the pets. Anyway, you can see that my people are doing their work. Now, when constructing, as I did previously say, when you lay something down and there's something in the way, such as a tree, that by default they'll remove it before they do anything. So you don't have to physically. There you go. Our crafter's just been sick because of his cryptosleep sickness. But yeah, they'll default move things out the way, or cut trees down, or plants away, or whatever if they need to. Let's speed things up a bit. Now, there is a grizzly bear right next to us. This game has what I would call aggressive creatures that don't actually attack you unless you annoy them. So that grizzly bear doesn't actually care that we're here. I think sometimes if they get hungry, they might attack, but I've not had that issue at all yet. They tend to attack small creatures when they're hungry. See if that bear will hit something now. No. Well, anyway, he's got to breach the threshold, I think, before. Now you can see that they're taking quite a long time cutting trees down. If I had left one person to construct, or one person to plant cut, this would have taken a lot longer, and there would be 2 people running around idle at the moment. Tends to find that the next problem you have is food, because 30 survival packages is not very much. So I tend to tackle that by hunting animals, because I have a shooter. But you might want to create an area straight away. So for plants, so you press zone / area, you click growing zone, you put it down wherever you want it. You might want a small one, you might want a really big one. Obviously, the bigger it is, the more food you get to feed your people. But let's just do this first night. You're going to need to get some beds in there as well, so you go into furniture. Again, these are defaulted with steel. I don't want steel furniture. I don't really care about their relationships, so I'm going to go ahead and put single beds. If they do become couples, you can always make a new bed for them and put a double bed, and they get quite a good buff from using a bed together, shall we say. Which it's a mood buff, it just gives them extra mood. Which of course means that they're less likely to break down and kill each other, which is always a nice thing. If you click on the bed, you can see how good it is. How good it is. So that one's awful, so that's not a very good bed. And I might want to replace that in a bit. If you press the beauty button, which is down here, you'll see that that actually gives -1 beauty, so people are upset by that bed. Whereas if you'd made a good bed, it might give you 20 or something, which is quite good. And you can see beauty of things anytime you want, just by clicking that button and then going around. And you can see, and I actually don't like this feature on the game very much, but you can see everything and what it gives. The grass gives 1, dirt gives -1, those big rocks -16. Like, personally, I don't think that would. I wouldn't see rocks as something that take away from the beauty of an area, but there we go. Anything that you've got stockpiled on the ground gives -1. And yeah, so on and so forth. Now, you'll notice that at the moment, none of my colonists are really doing anything. Just watch. And the reason why is that even though I've given them a task to do, they've actually run out of wood. And they're not going to tell me that they've run out of wood. They're just going to walk around like idiots. That's what they're doing right now. So, oh, that person's become a cleaner because, you know, that's his fun thing to do. So what we're going to do, zone/area. You could just clean the whole plants off an area because you might be building something else. But I'm going to just say cut these trees down. And we're going to put that in fast speed. And then they're going to go ahead and continue their construction work. So watch out for that, because colonists like to go idle whenever they can, because they, as I say, lazy bastards. Now, first night's done. We've got 3 beds out. We've got 3 areas where they can spend indoors, 3 bedrooms. So they're going to go to bed very, very shortly. You might want to make a zone or an area, like I'm about to, and customize it by clicking on it. Clear all, because I don't want everything in there. Now this bit gets a bit tricky because you might not know where to find things. Raw resources are where we're going to find wood. I just want to keep wood and steel in this one. So they'll move wood and steel into that area when they've got nothing else to do. And there we go, they moved the wood and steel. They're not actually ready to go to bed yet, by the looks of it. She's just wandering. So, let's start work on an area to make food in. Okay, I don't know what I've just done there. I've made a shoehorn, a horseshoe even. Right, you can see they're going to bed now, so they're not going to work during the night time. I'm going to just sort of leave it running in the background. Actually, I'm going to cancel that. What I tend to do is build one large area for them to eat in, which will have a table and chairs. I have an area attached to it to cook food in. And attached to that I have an area to butcher food in. And the reason I do that is when they butcher food they make mess everywhere, they put blood on the floor basically. So you don't really want that to be in an area where people are walking in and out of. So they cook the food in here, they butcher it in here. So they butcher it, take it into here, cook it, and then put it into a freezer which is going to be there. Now you want your freezer slightly bigger because that's where your food storage is going to be, and obviously you want it to be nice and big so you can store lots of food. And then of course you need to add doors. So I want definitely doors going into the food hall. Actually I'm going to remove that one because I often do that and then have no space to put things. I'll put a door on that end as well. Now, then I'm going to put a door to move into the kitchen, a door to move into where I'm putting animal corpses, and the door to move into the freezer. Okay. Finally, we're going to want to put floors in. Now, one thing that I often forget to do, and I've forgotten to do it here, is putting floors under the doors. If you don't put a floor under the door, you end up with a mud patch there, and people bring loads of mud into the house, and that counts as sort of like unbeautiful areas. I think it's -15 or something on the beauty, and that obviously makes people unhappy. If I look at this person at the moment, let's see what bed they've got actually. We've got a shoddy bed, and an awful bed, that's not good. If you had someone with good construction, and one of the reasons why I like construction to begin with is you'll get a comfortable buff, and people are more happy and they wake up in a better mood and they don't go nuts, which can happen quite easily. They will start with very low expectations because they've only just started and they think it's going to be awful. New colony optimism depends on your person, because I think if they're a pessimist, I don't know if they can actually get that buff. They've eaten nice meals. The survival packages are considered nice meals, so they get a buff from that. Basically, the first couple of days, your people can't really break down because they give them mood buffs to help. Oh, there you go. This person's a pessimist and he's got new colony optimism, so you can if you're a pessimist. But unfortunately, because that person's a pessimist, they always have a mood debuff, which is not really a good thing. And then you've got other things. He's hungry, so if he eats, that'll go. Feeling terrible, they have just random thoughts sometimes. This person's feeling great, so that's nice. And the idea of that, of course, is to mix and mash it and to sort of reflect reality, I suppose, in a way. People have days when they feel awful and feel brilliant, etc., etc. So anyway, that'll get built. Well, I say that, I'm going to need to tell them to cut down more trees, aren't I? If I don't do that, it's not going to get built. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I need lots of wood, so it might be worthwhile getting them to cut down lots of trees. It might also be a good idea to say now, let's change to manual, and who's my best construction person? We've got 6 there, 5 there, and a 1 there, so let's have this person on construction duty. So they'll construct, the other guys will cut down the trees. Yeah? And we'll move on from there. So you might want to get another bedroom because you'll have wanderers come and join you in the next couple of days and things like that. But we'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll look at episode 2. We'll look into where to go from here and how to hunt for food, I suppose. Thank you very much, and please subscribe and like the video. Cheers, bye bye.